heard Keyshawn say that Dan's list was stupidity. This is the list he was talking about. Orlovsky turned heads when he gave us a list of his top 5 quarterbacks of all time. This list in order as follows: Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, John Elway, Peyton Manning, and Dan Marino. We got Herm here, we got Bart Scott here, and of course Stephen A. I'm gonna start with you, Coach Herm. What are your thoughts on Dan Orlovsky's list?
Well, I think he's looking at a list, and I think he said on his list that a couple of the guys that weren't on there, he didn't see them play. There's still about 2 or 3 of those guys on that list I actually played against. I will say this, to not have Joe Montana and Terry Bradshaw on that list, that, in my opinion, is an error. 4 Super Bowls by both those guys. I played against them. We're talking about Burrows right now being like similar to Joe Montana. I mean, that's what Burrows reminds me of Joe Montana, right? And I played against Joe. He ended up coming to Kansas City. I was on the staff with Joe Montana. I get that part. Terry Bradshaw, another one with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's Stephen A's team. And they were loaded with players. But Terry Bradshaw, in the era that he played in, the forward pass was not what it is today. So their numbers are not going to be gaudy because there was a running game back in those days. They had a guy that we know who he is. He passed away, Franco Harris. But the Pittsburgh Steelers were a dynasty, along with the San Francisco 49ers. So those are 2 guys that I would definitely have on my list. There's no question about that.
Okay. All right. Bart, let me chime in here, man. I want to go before you, Bart, and you could be, the final say on this, all right? Coach, my brother, you're such a wonderful man that, sometimes it actually annoys me because it makes me look worse than what I really, really am because you're such a nice guy. You can say the obvious. Dan Orlovsky needs to be drug tested.
Yes.
You can say that. You can say that. He needs to be drug tested immediately. Something's wrong with him. Something's wrong with Dan Orlovsky. You know what I'm saying? A.K.A. Urkel, the white Urkel, A.K.A. Elvis wannabe. I mean, something wrong with him. Something wrong with him. What the hell you mean you didn't see Joe Montana? You got footage. You focus on tape. You know what you saw. Stop it. Joe Montana, you can't have a top 5 list of quarterbacks in NFL history and don't have Joe Montana on the damn list. That's just ignorant. And how the hell you didn't see Joe Montana, but you saw John Elway? Yeah, how you do that? I mean, they ain't that far apart. Stop it, okay? So let's get that out the way. Secondly, and profound respect to the great John Elway, 2-time Super Bowl champion. We know this, but we also know he never would have won those Super Bowls without Terrell Davis. All right? Terrell Davis. That wouldn't have happened. That's number 1. Number 2, you also saw him get obliterated in a few Super Bowls. I think 3 of them before he ever won the 2. Okay? And the 2 he won was because of Terrell Davis. So you can take him off the list. Dan Marino was phenomenal. Big time. Mark Super Duper. Mark Clayton with Chuck Muncie coming out of the backfield. We know what Dan Marino represented. We know that Don Shula, the great Don Shula, God rest his soul, never gave him a damn defense. We get that. The bottom line is he don't have 1 Super Bowl on his resume. He don't have 1 Super Bowl on his resume. That doesn't matter now. Okay? So we got to take that into consideration. We look at Peyton Manning, the greatest regular season quarterback of all time, but not necessarily the postseason. But he's still great, still phenomenal. We all know this. At the end of the day, what we got to look at is, I got no problems with Mahomes on the list. All right? But you got to have Montana on there. You absolutely have to have him on there. There's no way around it. And excuse me, you brought up Bradshaw, 4 Super Bowls. We didn't bring up Troy Aikman, 3 Super Bowls, okay? We got Peyton Manning with the 2. We're not going to put Eli in the discussion, even though he's got 2. So it ain't all about the rings. It's about what you did specifically to get him. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. The absence of credibility. This is a product of Dan. You know what? Here's what happened, guys. I'm going to tell you what happened to Dan. Because Dan, there's no way in hell that Dan Orlovsky is this ignorant. There's no way. He's a brilliant football mind. He's not ignorant. Here's what happened. He's so damn cheap, he didn't want to spend extra money on tape or extra money for an extra cable channel where he could watch some footage to see exactly what happened. That's what this is about, okay? Because there's no way in hell he's watched any football and he's got a top 5 quarterback list of all time, and it doesn't include Joe Montana. He's just cheap, and he didn't want to spend the extra money to look at footage so he could know what the hell he's talking about. That's it.
He don't need no footage. All he needs to know is his number one quarterback on his list was chasing Joe Montana, idolized Joe Montana. If he has so much respect for Tom Brady, that's all he needed to know. Like, listen, I'm with you, Coach. Terry Bradshaw, you have to talk about defining an era. And it was more about toughness and ability to be willing to stand in that pocket because you knew what was happening. You could smack people in the head. You could hit them after the bell. You could hit them after the whistle. So Terry Bradshaw, I think, is one of the most disrespected.
How about when they threw him on his head, boy?
Yes.
How
He
about when
bounced
they threw
right up.
Terry Bradshaw on his head?
He
bounced
right
up.
He defined an era. 4 Super Bowls in the 70s. That is a dynasty. We've rarely seen some team or organization win 4 titles in 1 year. Now, you look at Peyton Manning. I have to give it to Peyton Manning because he defined and revolutionized the position. He was creating on the fly. But for me, John Elway is a Hall of Famer because what he was able to do, the Super Bowls that he lost, it wasn't because he didn't play great. But Dan Orlovsky, yeah, I think we got to ask him what's going on, man, because he's sniffing some glue or something.
Got to get drug tested.
Yeah, he's sniffing some glue.
Got to get drug tested.
We'll do that. We'll do that for him.
He got to spend some money. Stop being so damn cheap. That's what it is. He's cheap. It's not even drugs. He's cheap.
Take free at ESPN, Steven. Keep it real.
Coach Herm, you're leaving us. Great working with you. Have an amazing weekend.
I got to ask one question, though. I get it. Hey, Steven, I got to ask you one question. You talked about Michael Jordan. Obviously, I agree there. You talked about LeBron James. Where is Kobe Bryant? If Kobe Bryant was still with us, where would Kobe Bryant be if he, was still with us?
5 is greater than 4.
He wouldn't be top 5. He wouldn't be top 5.
Okay.
That would be LeBron, Michael Jordan, Kareem, Bill Russell. Maybe at 5. Him or Magic Johnson at 5.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Great seeing you, Coach Herm. Still to come, the name Jordan is synonymous with winning and a career full of so many wins.
How much team success did they have? And I heavily emphasize the peak because I believe that's not everything, but it's a big part of what we're talking about when we talk about the greatest. It's not just how many seasons toward the end did they add on when they were still good, but like what heights did they reach and how long did they sustain those heights? And what I'm saying, Key, is throw out the stats because Mahomes slaughters Elway. It's not fair, but as I say, it's not fair. Let's compare era to era. Mahomes in 5 seasons as a starter is about to go to his 3rd Super Bowl, is about to win his 2nd MVP, and we will see what happens in the Super Bowl, already has a Super Bowl championship. Elway, in 16 seasons, won 1 MVP, came in 2nd once, came in 4th once, came in 5th once. Okay, those are all his top 5 MVPs finishes. Mahomes is about to win his 2nd MVP. He's also been a top 3 times already. In his first 5 years, Mahomes' height is higher than Elway's height, who won the Super Bowl at the end when he was still good. He was Elway. He was always good. But he wasn't the great John Elway the same way he was early in his career. He got a running back, and they won behind that, largely. Key.
Oh, so you're telling me the helicopter didn't mean nothing against Green Bay?
No, I'm not. I just said he was still
because
good.
he got a running back. He got a running back that helped the offense engineer drives.
How many years did it take Elway to get to 2 Super Bowl wins? 16. Mahomes had the chance to do it in his 5th season as a starter.
God dang, and he may never win another and may never go to another.
It's possible he doesn't, but the concentration of excellence in Mahomes' prime already surpasses the concentration of excellence in Elway's prime.
Is Dan Reeves Andy Reid?
Is he Andy Reid? What do you mean? He's a great coach?
No, is he Andy Reid as a coach? Would you consider the late Dan Reeves as a...
I would put Andy Reid ahead of him.
Okay, all right. So coaching does matter sometimes too, right?
Of course.
Okay, I'm asking you.
But no one's arguing against Elway's greatness. Elway's a great quarterback.
You. So when you look at when he acquired or when he coached with Dan Reeves, so to speak, that's a different conversation because Andy Reid may decide to abruptly retire in 2 years, and then he's stuck with Matt Nagy.
It's possible.
So
we have to see that play out.
But
you're saying I'm being premature in my evaluation. What I'm saying is...
I am saying absolutely you are being premature.
Apples to apples, how are they even perceived in their own era? Every single year,
I bet you
Mahomes is a top MVP candidate. He's leading an all-time. He is higher in the hierarchy in his era than Elway was in his.
I just got a text from somebody. Tom Jackson says, get this dude brain checked.
About Patrick Mahomes?
I have not, John Elway.
I have not said a word this whole
Get
segment.
this
and I have
dude
thoroughly
brain
enjoyed
checked.
every
About
second
John.
of it.
So
I
Tom
thoroughly
Jackson
enjoyed
thinks
every
Elway's
second of
better than Mahomes is.
Tom Jackson, call into the show right now. Call into the show, Tom.
Is
Come
it
on,
too
TJ.
early to put Mahomes in the top?